I've got a couple of questions. First of all, with all this oil mess and stuff, should I keep putting into my ETFs? And does that affect them? And secondly, you say put in not large amounts, but put in often. And can you tell me your reasoning behind that? And I'll hang up and listen.
So, all right. Hey, Dean, thank you, brother. I'm glad to hear from you again. The putting in often is meaning that you're buying in at a wider variety of price points. So you're buying in one day at $2 a share, the next day at $2.20, the next day at $1.90, at the next day at $2.40, and the next day at $1.80, and so on and so forth. You're buying in at a lot of different price points. The more price points that you buy in, and I'm just talking statistically now, this is just the way it is, that your average cost basis is going to go lower. Your average cost basis is going to get more stable, and you're going to add stability to it, and you're going to add a consistency to it, but more consistency on the downside. I don't know why, Dean. I wish I could give you some elaborate reason. I just know that statistically, when you go back and look over the last 40 years over mutual funds primarily, since they've been keeping track of that, but it would pertain to ETFs as well, the more you put in, the much better your portfolio is going to do. Not more money, but the more often. Now, I want to say, yes, keep doing to your ETFs, but I want to clarify something. There is some very, very negative news coming out in reference to ETFs and oil. But I want to make this clear. They're talking about oil sector ETFs. We don't have that. The ETFs that you are in are not sector ETFs. They are broad market. They are akin to the S&P 500. That's what you have. These aren't sector funds. So I would never, ever, ever recommend anybody buy a sector fund. How many times, Dean, I know you're a long-term listener. How many times have you heard me say over the years, I'm not a big fan of gold, but when people want to buy gold, I say, whatever you do, buy the physical. Please don't buy it any other way. Because the only other way that most people would buy it is through an ETF. I don't believe that the ETF has as much gold as they have money in it, thinking they own the gold. I just don't. Oil, we found out on Monday, and they're being kind of careful about how they talk about this because they don't want to hurt the ETF market, but I don't know how all the money in oil ETFs, I don't think there's that much oil in the world. So what's backing up the ETF? What's backing it up? Well, it's an oil ETF. Oil is. Okay. So if all that oil is backing up, how are they doing it? Are they doing it by way of futures contracts? And what happens if that runs out like it did on Monday, where you can't take delivery of the oil or can't sell the oil? What happens then if that doesn't happen? You see a crash, negative $34. I mean, how? Because there's nowhere to put the oil. There's no buyers that are going to buy it, the options, because what are they going to do with it? At some point in time, you have to take delivery. So the panic on Monday was the end of futures contracts and people getting phone calls saying, hey, where do you want me to deliver your oil? Deliver it to Cushing. We'll put it in storage. No. There's no room. Well, how about pipelines? How about rail cars? There's nowhere to put it. Cushing, Oklahoma, you're from Oklahoma, Dean. Cushing, Oklahoma, has a capacity of 85 million barrels of oil in inventory. That's what their capacity is. They have 61 million in there today. Well, probably a little more than that today, maybe because that was Monday's number. So they have 61 million in there. The other, they got a long way to go to get to 85. Yeah, but it's already spoken for. So that's already reserved by ConocoPhillips, by Chevron, by, Hess, by ExxonMobil. That's already spoken for. So there is no inventory. There is no place to store it. And storage isn't getting depleted because there's no demand. So that's what we have. So that's why we don't buy any sector. I don't buy any sector ETFs or any sector mutual funds. I don't like them. If you want the sector, buy the stock. But anyway, so don't get confused by getting concerned about your ETFs because there's so much negative press out there right now. Rightly so, by the way. I'm not saying unduly negative, but what they keep forgetting to talk about or what listeners or readers don't see is the word oil ETFs. They're not saying ETFs that have oil stock in them. It's not what they're saying. These are oil sector ETFs. So big difference. So I wish they would be clearer about that because I don't want people to get confused and start panicking about their ETFs in general. Hey, remember to click the subscribe button right here on the screen. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when new content is added. And more importantly than anything, you don't want to miss all 3 live hours of Financial Issues every day from 9 to noon. And you can watch it on FISM.tv. That's FISM.tv.